Here are 4 common ways to use the subjunctive that native Spanish speakers use every day. I'll also show you how to use these as sentence templates so that you can use them over and over in all kinds of different situations. The first and most common way to use the subjunctive is when someone hopes or wishes something for someone else. Every time that happens, there's a predictable pattern that you can reuse for any situation like that. You can see the pattern in this sentence. Quiero que estés aquí. This literally means I want that you be here. So notice that this is not saying you are here, and it's not saying you're not here, but it is saying I want you to be here. And then we have a subjunctive in the second half there. You can use this basic sentence as a template, basically a plug and play structure that you can adapt to lots and lots of different situations. For example, let's say that you want to say, I want you to go with them. That's easy. We'll just change the second half of the sentence, still using a subjunctive, but we'll change it to the subjunctive for you go, which is vayas. Quiero que vayas con ellos. As you can see, it's the exact same structure, just a different verb. We can also change the first half to change it from I want to they want. They want you to go with them. Quieren que vayas con ellos. So if you practice this a bit, you can create a mental model based on our original sentence, quiero que estés aquí. And then from this model, you can come up with all kinds of variations using different verbs to express your hopes and desires. Here's some examples. I hope that they say yes. Espero que digan que sí. I prefer that you do this. Prefiero que hagas esto. So this is one of the most common structures in Spanish, and you can start building on it just based on quiero que estés aquí. The next common use of the subjunctive is when you're describing something that you have an emotional reaction to. Here's a sentence structure that shows up all the time in Spanish. Es bueno que estés aquí. This literally translates to it's good that you be here. So in the second half of the sentence, we use the subjunctive estés to express the idea of you being here. I'm feeling good about that idea. And here's an important clarification. You don't use the subjunctive to describe the way that you feel. If you just want to say, I'm happy, or I'm scared, or it's good, or it's bad, all of those would not use a subjunctive. Those would just be estoy feliz, tengo miedo, es bueno, es malo. But then if you start to describe why you're feeling that way, that's what triggers the subjunctive. So let's build a sentence to show how that works. We'll start simply with es bueno. Okay, all right, so what is it that you think is good? Well, let's say that 2 of your friends have started hanging out with each other and they've become friends, and you've been wanting them to become friends for a while. So maybe you would say, it's good that they're friends. Es bueno que sean amigos. As you can see, we have a subjunctive in the second half there, but not the first half. This follows a really common sentence template. Es, emotion, que, subjunctive. With this, you can plug in all kinds of feelings and reactions. For example, it's a problem that she isn't here. Es un problema que ella no esté aquí. It's strange that he says that. Es extraño que él diga eso. These use subjunctives, esté and diga, because we're reacting emotionally to what's happening. So anytime you're describing a reaction to something that's happening, that's the subjunctive sentence template that you'll use. Next, let's talk about uncertainty. Here's a simple example. Maybe he's in that place. Quizás esté en ese lugar. When we say things like maybe, that typically triggers the subjunctive. So that's why we used esté here. We're expressing something that might happen or might be true. But be careful, you can't just go out and start using the subjunctive anytime you're unsure of something. Uncertainty doesn't always trigger the subjunctive. It only happens in some situations. So for example, if you want to say, I'm not sure, you would simply say, no estoy seguro or segura. And notice that we used estoy, not esté. But then, if you follow this with what you're unsure about, that's when the subjunctive kicks in. So you might say, I'm not sure that he's at home. No estoy seguro de que esté en casa. So the point here is it's not just about whether you're certain or uncertain. Instead, there are some sentence templates that trigger a subjunctive, particularly when you explain what it is that you're unsure about. For now, I recommend just practicing the simple sentence template that starts with quizás and then has a subjunctive phrase. Once you're used to that, you can build your skills from there. Here are some more examples. Maybe they do that. Quizás hagan eso. Maybe I'll go to the party. Quizás vaya a la fiesta. Now for the fourth use of the subjunctive, which is subtle, but it's super common. This is how you can use the subjunctive to add an element of whatever to what you're saying. I'll give you a concrete example. So let's start with a non-subjunctive sentence. I'm going to do what she wants. Voy a hacer lo que ella quiere. Here, we're just using the normal present tense of querer, quiere. And this means that we're talking about doing a specific thing that she wants. I'm going to do what she wants, meaning one specific thing. But now watch what happens when we change quiere to the subjunctive quiera. I'm going to do whatever she wants. Voy a hacer lo que ella quiera. So by using the subjunctive here, we're making the sentence much more open-ended by saying we'll do anything she wants or whatever she wants, as opposed to just a specific thing like in the first example. So we only changed one thing. We changed quiere to quiera, but it totally changed the meaning of the sentence. Let's do this again with another example. You have to do what I tell you. Tienes que hacer lo que te digo. You have to do whatever I tell you. Tienes que hacer lo que te diga. The first one in the normal present tense is specific. There's one thing that I'm telling you that you have to do. When we say you have to do whatever I tell you, it's much more open-ended. Maybe I'm in a position of authority here. So these could be two totally different contexts, even though the sentence structure looks almost the same, and all we changed was one little letter at the end. So this takes some nuance to practice, but it's a use of the subjunctive that native Spanish speakers use every day. All right, those were 4 common subjunctive templates that you can use for everyday Spanish. We've also put together a full deep explanation of the top 10 essential sentence templates that'll help you master the Spanish subjunctive. You can practice all of them in depth at our brand new course, the Subjunctive Challenge. This is a 4-week bootcamp focused entirely on mastering the most useful subjunctive structures, not by memorizing grammar rules, but by drilling real, everyday sentence templates until they just flow. Each week, we'll focus on a small set of sentence patterns and we'll build on them little by little until you're saying things like this with ease. By the end of the bootcamp, the subjunctive won't feel like grammar anymore. It'll just feel like normal Spanish. After 4 weeks of these step-by-step lessons, targeted quizzes, and feedback from our expert native-speaking Spanish coaches, the subjunctive will feel natural. That way, Spanish doesn't get harder the more you learn, it actually gets easier. Just click the link in the description to join the next Subjunctive Challenge, and we'll see you in there.